We have a lot to discuss on this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. You have Donald Trump's disaster trip to Asia. First stop was Malaysia, then Japan. Trump continuing to make a fool of himself and the United States. You then have MAGA Mike Johnson holding more disastrous press conferences. And now he's saying that actually it's the Democrats who control the government, not the Republicans that control all branches of government. We'll show you that. You have Trump's Treasury Secretary during Trump's trip to Asia saying that he feels the pain of American farmers. Secretary Scott Bessent says that he's actually a soybean farmer himself, so he knows the pain that everyday farmers are going through. Fact check, he's not a soybean farmer. He's basically a billionaire who owns lots of land and he collects rent from farmers. We'll talk about that. Also, we have to talk about the fact that 20 plus million Americans about to lose their health care, 42 million Americans about to lose supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits. The food bank lines we're seeing throughout the country are very reminiscent of COVID, if not worse at this point. And Jordy, I'll have to show this one to you. Senator Gallego of Arizona going on your show, Squawk Box with Joe Kernan.
Oh, no.
And showing what a forceful offense looks like against Joe Kernan's MAGA talking points. Oh, what I also want to show is a hearing that no one's really been talking about, which was the confirmation hearing of the ambassador to South Africa, who basically said that we should employ discriminatory tactics here in the United States to be okay with black people not voting. I'll show you that. Just one of these things that in a Trump news cycle doesn't get enough attention. That and more on the MeidasTouch Podcast. Brett and Jordy, how are you doing, brothers?
Doing well. I'm in disbelief every time you give these intros, which is what we're going to be talking about. And when I saw the clips that we're going to be speaking about today, I was like, this is prime Jordy rage bait. We're talking Squawk Box. We're talking Joe Kernan being a douche on the air. This is going to get Jordy riled up. I mean, come on. I'm looking forward to the show, guys. I know we got a lot to speak about, a lot to discuss today. I want to give a huge shout out to everybody watching, everybody listening. And for those watching, remember to listen on the audio podcast as well. If you can, Apple Podcasts, Spotify for those listening. Remember to check out our YouTube channel. We've got new videos all day, reports all throughout the day. Ben keeping you, and our incredible contributors keeping you up to speed on everything that's going on. Jordy, what's the latest?
I'm excited to get into today's show, everybody. What's going on? And I feel like I was ahead of the curve on the Kernan stuff. Just I'm glad this is now becoming more mainstream and we get to talk about it more in the pod without me, little brother, getting made fun of. So Benji, where do we want to start off today?
Let's actually start off with the clip that you probably haven't seen on any other news network, because at any normal times, this clip would get significant attention. But in a media cycle where Donald Trump is tearing down the East Wing, or he's torn down the East Wing of the Oval Office, as he's giving $40 billion bailouts to Argentina, as we're in a government shutdown that will almost certainly be the longest in the history of the United States. And I don't foresee how this government shutdown is going to end certainly before the end of the year, but I think it may even go until the midterms. Just watch this clip as Donald Trump's pick to become the United States ambassador to South Africa is cross-examined by Democratic Senator Murphy. And again, this is a clip that really gets no attention elsewhere, but these are the types of people every day that are being nominated by Donald Trump. This is just a kind of a random moment, but I think an important one, which shows you in any other normal time, this would be highlighted. Here, play this clip.
Do you support having a refugee admissions policy in this country that only admits white refugees?
Senator, I don't make that policy.
Well, but it's really important. But I think this is if I were to ask this question of virtually any nominee to be an ambassador prior to this panel, that would be an easy layup answer. No, of course we don't support having a refugee policy where we only admit white people. So why can't you give me your personal view on that?
Because, Senator, I am here to serve America and to do what the president is asking me to do. I'll be following the executive order of February.
Would you support reinstituting laws in this country to only allow white people to vote?
Senator, I'm going to serve as ambassador to South Africa, and I'm going to focus on that.
You will not share your personal views on whether it is right or wrong to reinstitute discriminatory policies in this country to prevent black people from voting?
Senator, my personal views are irrelevant.
So that's basically how these confirmation hearings are going. And again, just think about that moment. We're going to talk about much more. Brett, let me just pass it to you there, because again, that's something that, did you see reported anywhere else other than on the MeidasTouch Network?
I haven't. That's the first time, if I'm being totally honest, it's the first time I've seen that clip, period. I mean, that's absolutely insane. I had to pick my jaw up off the floor. I figure maybe I shouldn't have to, because I should expect the worst. But it's like, where the hell do they find these people? How could you not answer such a simple question? But it really is indicative of the kinds of people that Donald Trump and this regime are putting in the government, that are bringing to all these various countries, that are representing the United States right now. And it's something that I think most of the American people really don't understand what is going on. They really don't see what's happening, beneath the hood of the Trump administration, so to speak. They obviously see, the things that are being talked about in a big way, and rightfully so, like the destruction of the ballroom and all these, the destruction of the East Wing of the White House for the ballroom and all these other various things. But there are so many things happening on a daily basis that simply aren't getting the attention that they deserve. And I hope people start to wake up to this, and that, folks out there start sharing, moments like that.
And it's why I wanted to cover that one at the outset. Now, while the Trump regime has apparently found $40 billion to give Argentina and interfere with that election to successfully prop up Javier Milei in the elections that just took place, as we've apparently found close to $200 billion or more to fund ICE agents engaging in chemical warfare against Americans in the streets of major cities and small cities across this country, but particularly with a focus on blue states and blue cities. Apparently, the Trump regime can't find any way at all to access the emergency funds, which are there for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. That's where MAGA Mike's like, we just can't figure out a solution here. It's actually very complicated the way the appropriations process works. And if we take from here, we're going to have to remove from over here. So there's really nothing we can do. Watch as MAGA Mike, who has never taken any nuanced view like this when it's come to Donald Trump's destruction of our country or Donald Trump bailing out Argentina or whatever. Here it is when it comes to a program that 42 million Americans rely on. He goes, we just can't figure it out. Here, play this clip.
And the SNAP benefits is a unique situation. I got a summary of the whole legal analysis, and it certainly looks legitimate to me. The contingency funds are not legally available to cover the benefits right now. The reason is because it's a finite source of funds. It was appropriated by Congress, and if they transfer funds from these other sources, it pulls it away immediately from school meals and infant formula. So it's a trade-off. There has to be a pre-existing appropriation for the contingency fund to be used, and Democrats blocked that appropriation when they rejected the clean continuing resolution.
Can you just fund people's health care and fund people's supplemental nutrition assistance program so Americans aren't starving to death? Just think about the priorities that we're seeing, folks. You have Donald Trump providing all of these tax shelters and benefits to people buying private jets, right? There's a boom in private jets because it's like 100% deductible on taxes. So all these corporations are buying private jets. But 42 million Americans are potentially going to starve to death or not going to be able to buy their food right now. Just think of when it comes to priorities. Then what about healthcare, MAGA Mike? What is your plan? Because as I see it, there's different buckets here. We could have universal health care for free. The government pays for it fully. We tax the rich more. I support that plan. You have the Affordable Care Act, which is not quite universal health care, but you bring in the subsidies, which we have now. It at least makes it somewhat affordable, but I'd like to see it made more affordable, as I think most Americans would like to see it. But we need those subsidies. Otherwise, we're going to see what we're seeing now, which is people's premiums being raised by $20,000 to $25,000 a month, essentially. $25,000 a year at this point, $2,000, $3,000 a month increases. Or you go back to where we were before Obamacare, which was 20 million Americans plus being uninsured, potentially dying because they don't have insurance, emergency rooms being used as primary care, discrimination of pre-existing conditions. So MAGA Mike, is that what you want? Tell us what your plan is. Here, play this clip.
But we know we're going to have to arm wrestle with Democrats over that. Why? Because many of them are avowed to get us to a single-payer system. They do love socialism, my friends. They love Mondami. He wants government to take over everything. They're on board with that program. They think the government can do a better job by taking over healthcare. We believe in the private sector and the free market and individual providers, their acumen. And we say that if you take the government off their backs and allow for real competition again in healthcare, you will improve its quality and you will bring down its cost.
By the way, this is the Trump regime that's having the government take over portions of Intel. This is the government that has expressed that it will be taking over more corporations, that if you want to give confidential and proprietary information to China, that's fine. All you got to do is you just got to pay a little fee for that. You got to pay a little quid pro quo to Donald Trump. And then so MAGA Mike's also then asked, well, why not just bring back the MAGA Republican Congress members to D.C.? Like, isn't it a bad look that during the shutdown that they're not even in Washington, D.C. and they're like getting paid for vacation at this point? That, what is it, like over the past 90 plus days, there's only been 12 days of actual work in Congress because they adjourned for the summer because they wanted to hide the Epstein files. And then they're shutting down the government right now and further not showing up, at least in the Senate. You know, the Republicans, I guess, are there. I guess that's slightly better than not being there. Like, they show up to the Capitol, but the House, they're not even there. So here's what MAGA Mike says when he's asked about that. Let's play it.
Do that rather than have members back home in their districts. Why not bring them back and do the work that they were elected to do?
Yeah, so we're evaluating this day by day. The House did its work. I've said it over and over and over. And the most important thing is to get the government open. It's the number one priority and number one responsibility of Congress. And the Senate Democrats have chosen not to do it. We think that is paramount and of paramount importance to everything else. There is plenty of time in the remainder of the calendar year to do all the things that are the must-pass pieces of legislation and all the negotiations that I referenced earlier today. And we are anxious to get everybody back to regular legislative session. But there cannot be a regular legislative session so long as the government is closed and Americans are feeling so much pain. We won't do that. Now, in the meantime, Republicans, I don't know what the Democrats are doing other than publicity stunts, but I can tell you the House Republicans are doing some of the most meaningful work of their careers. They're in their districts working around the clock with their constituents, helping them not only to negotiate the crisis that's been created by this Democrat shutdown.
So they're negotiating with their constituents? I don't even know what that means. The MAGA Republicans are in their districts negotiating with their constituents as they rip away the health care of their constituents. Just extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies so that people's health care costs don't go up $24,000 a year. Like, it's a pretty basic one. Once you do that, then we can figure out if you've got other plans, which Trump could have introduced during his first term, which he could have introduced in his first 9 months of this term. Introduce your plan, show it to the American people, provide the details about how this is going to make prices more affordable. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to reduce the prices by 1,600% or 1,700%. That's not a real number. That's not a real plan. You can't show that there's technology from outer space called med beds and that's going to cure everybody's cancer. And it's like a super secret MRI machine. I know Donald Trump knows a lot about MRI machines. He was talking about that on the flight to Japan, but that it cures all diseases. That's not a real plan. So we need real plans. Then MAGA Mike Johnson says, the thing is, Republicans aren't even in charge of the government right now. The Democrats are. Huh? Here, play this clip.
The Democrats are required to open the government. They keep saying Republicans are in charge of government. We aren't. Not in the Senate. 60 votes control the Senate, not a bare majority. And so point number one, Democrat votes are required.
Let me bring in Brett again and Jordy. I bring you through all of those clips to show you the evolving permutations. And it went from a few weeks back blaming transgender people and immigrants. And now it's kind of just like, show up and sign it, damn it. You're the ones who actually control government. Brett.
Seems like so long ago when they tried to act like this was about transgender people and illegal immigrants, right? Like, it seems like a very long time ago, but they remember that's how this all started. And they got called out on that. It was clearly BS, clearly a complete and total lie. And now they don't know what to do. So like you see Mike Johnson coming out there every single day to the lectern, telling some of the most blatantly obvious lies on the planet. And then he's like, okay, good for the day. All right, I did my part. I lied for Donald Trump, and now I'll just go back to screwing over the American people. The heartlessness that you have to have in order to do that every day, and just like the total lack of morals that he cloaks in this faux Christianity he wraps himself in, and this faux patriotism that he wraps himself in. I just find it so incredibly gross to see him go out there and just lie to the American people like that as he's screwing them over. I mean, to say that the Democrats are in charge of the government here and all the stuff that he says about healthcare, there's a reason why the Republicans don't go out and say what their healthcare plan would be, because we know what their healthcare plan would be. First, we know they don't have an actual plan to make things better than it is right now. We know that what they want to do is they want to strip away all the protections that were put in place by the Affordable Care Act, protections that have kept people alive, protections that have allowed people with pre-existing conditions to get coverage, protections that have allowed people to actually not die. They want to go back to a system where it's every man and woman for themselves, and where people could just die and be refused coverage for any reason whatsoever. And that's not something the American people want. I don't think the American people are too fond of these health insurance companies, if I'm being honest. And the biggest defenders of these health insurance companies are these Republicans who are in power. And we're just seeing the games that are being played right now. And it seems very clear that they have no intention of trying to work with Democrats to open up the government. They have no intention of negotiating, of trying to do anything that's actually in the interest of the people right now. They just want to try to play this blame game and hope that it helps their poll numbers down the road. But the fact is, there are lives that are on the line right now. You mentioned in the beginning, Ben, those food lines. And I think it's very telling that when's the last time we had food lines like we're seeing right now? Donald Trump's previous administration. You could blame it on COVID then. You can't blame it on COVID right now. That's an image that we see when Republicans are in charge of our government that we don't see at any other times. And I think the American people need to understand that fact of why we are seeing these images of working people having to show up at the food lines, why we are seeing these federal workers who give their heart and soul to make our government operate and aren't political in nature, why they are having to go to food banks and having to actually do that in order to feed their families. At the same time, while we see, Ben, as you brought up earlier, that side-by-side of rich people stocking up on their private jets, getting Kristi Noem hundreds of millions of dollars worth of private jets for her to use personally, and all these various things, the bailouts in Argentina, all the stuff our government is doing while the American people suffer. I think it really paints a picture that I think a lot of people are seeing right now, which is why Trump's approval rating is hovering at like 37%.
Well said, B. And look, if you act like a duck and you quack like a duck, you're a duck. If you do things that hurt America, if you do things that hurt Americans, I'm only left with one conclusion. You hate America and you hate the American people. You don't work for the American people. You work for one person, and his name is Donald Trump, talking to the MAGA Republicans here. Literally, this is literally why I say that they hate America, is because, Ben, beautifully said earlier, snap lapsing for 42 million Americans. They're just going to let it happen. They don't care. And what do? They point to the Democrats and say, the Democrats are actually in charge. Republicans, y'all control every branch of government, man. Like, it's really so frustrating when you see MAGA Mike Johnson up there, just parroting these talking points with very minimal pushback too, I have to say. Not to make this a whole corporate media thing, but just to be like, hey, you're just going to let him say this stuff when the facts actually are not on his side. And this is also what I mean when I say that the Republican Party is not pro-life. No, they're pro-forced birth, because once again, they're letting the American people suffer based off their allegiance to Donnie. It's insane to see it play out, man.
And here's ultimately what Trump and Bessent are focused on: manipulating the stock market. So the stock market continues to rise and their rich friends make a lot of money, while on Main Street, while real Americans are the ones who are suffering. So this whole trip to Asia that Donald Trump is taking is part of the pump and dump. And what they just hope happens is that the pump occurs just under Trump, and then they dump on who's ever going to be taking over in the future of our country. I mean, when I heard that Donald Trump and China over the weekend reached a framework of a trade deal, I said, Didn't they do that last month? And didn't they do that 2 months before that? And didn't they do that 4 months before that? I recall that I was in Manhattan sometime in May with my brothers when we were going to the Webby Awards. I remember it very vividly that there was this big announcement. The trade framework was announced. The Trump regime tried to frame it as a trade deal. And at that time, I called it out. I said, fake deal. It's non-binding. It's not a real thing. It's like a consensus. But what happened? The stock market exploded on that news, right? Then it went, down a little, up a little bit. Then in June, the Trump regime announces they've done a framework with China. And I was like, but didn't you just announce that? You're now doing it again? And basically every 2 months, the Trump regime announces a trade framework with China. Then there's a fight, then there's a framework. Then there's a fight, then there's a framework. And the stock market continues to go up, and then it'll have a day where it goes down, but then it goes up. This is great news. We have a framework with China. And meanwhile, when you actually analyze, what's this framework about? The key issues, the same way when we talk about how flawed the deal is, in the Middle East, which the key issue would be, is there a two-state solution or not a two-state solution, right? In the Middle East, that's the key question. How do you not address that issue in a peace deal when that's the reason why there haven't been deals before? That's why it's not a peace deal, but it's a ceasefire. Over here, the main issues of China's control of rare earths and the ability of China just to issue restrictions on rare earth minerals being exported and how these price controls and other controls can crash markets, that's not being addressed. So all this is window dressing and not actually a deal. It's just basically saying, Trump gets angry, he raises the tariffs, then he brings the tariffs back down, but not the systemic issue about where the tension is with China in the first place, which is their overall control over the rare earth minerals market and how they can use that to harm our economy and harm other economies when we don't exert leverage. I want to talk about that and more. Then we'll talk about this trip to Asia, what's really going on. I want to contrast Trump to Prime Minister Carney's appearance because you really see a big difference of the U.S. approach and the Canadian approach. But I want to take our first quick break of the show. I want to remind everybody, though, if you can, subscribe right now to this YouTube channel. It's free to subscribe. Also, become a member, a paid member of this YouTube channel, and you're able to gift memberships to others as well by clicking the join button. So others who may not be able to afford a membership and access the exclusive content and the emojis, if you're able to give that gift of a membership, that would be great as well. All right, let's take our first quick break of the show. Brett and Jordy, I know you're anxious to respond to the kind of fake deals that keep being announced over and over. I see your faces there. Let's take our first quick break of the show.
True self-reliance starts with taking control of your own health. Armra Colostrum is nature's original solution. Colostrum is packed with over 400 bioactive nutrients that fortify gut health and strengthen immune health to build resilience at the cellular level. Because when you invest in your health, you invest in your ability to show up, think clearly, and stay in control no matter what life throws your way. Today's environment is filled with toxins, processed foods, modern stressors, and immune disruptors. Nourish your microbiome and strengthen your barriers to support your immune health. Armra Colostrum is your secret to feeling strong, vibrant, and confident again. Not seeing results with your current routine? Colostrum is packed with 400 plus bioactive nutrients that work like a blueprint for your body, promoting your cells' natural renewal processes to support skin, hair, gut health, metabolism, immune health, lean muscle, and whole body vitality. Strengthen your gut integrity and support healthy fat metabolism to empower your body with the blueprint to revitalize health from the inside out. We've worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 30% off your first subscription order. Go to armra.com/Meidas or enter Meidas to get 30% off your first subscription order. That's armra.com/Meidas.
I didn't think a skincare product could actually reverse how my skin feels, but OneSkin changed my mind. What I personally like most about OneSkin is how it actually makes my skin feel stronger and more hydrated. I started using their OS1 body on my arms and neck, those areas that start to show age first, and I've really noticed the difference. But my favorite has to be the OS1 eye topical. Honestly, I did not expect results to be this good, and it couldn't be easier to use. Just cleanse, pat dry, and apply twice a day. That's it. I've now added the OS1 face and eye creams into my routine, and they've quickly become products I cannot live without. Born from over 10 years of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the cells that cause the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin and hair now and as you age. For a limited time, try OneSkin with 15% off using code Meidas at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code Meidas. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Benji, where to next?
Brett, I know you want to respond to the fake deals and the Ponzi scheme economy. Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme was $65 billion. Trump's is $20 trillion, which we'll talk about in a bit, how he makes up that we brought in $20 trillion of investment when the number is an entirely false and fabricated number. But we keep seeing what he does with the market. China's a prime example, but he's done that with every single country. We have 0 trade deals in 90 days. We have 6 fake deals or 7 fake deals in 90 days. And what I mean by that is they're non-binding. They're not actually signed. And trade deals are detailed documents, often 1,000 pages in length. And they are free trade agreements often that deal with a comprehensive trading relationship between trading partners. And that's not what these are. These are press releases that Donald Trump issues. And then if he wakes up and doesn't like an advertisement that's being run by a country, even if it's just from a province, the way Ontario ran an ad in the United States, he goes, oh, okay, it's 10% more now on Canada. I'm raising the tariffs. So these are not deals, even the 6 and are the 7. And I think that our media calls them trade deals. And I'm like, they're not deals. And there were 0 deals in 90 days, but 7 fake deals in that amount of time. It's all a Ponzi scheme. The whole thing is a Ponzi scheme. And it's so obvious that when you look at the job numbers, when you look at GDP growth,
what job numbers?
from 3 months ago.
Job numbers they're no longer releasing, the inflation data that they're no longer releasing. I mean, the scam is staring us in the face, people. Like, it's just absolutely crazy. And the thing that really, 90 deals in 90 days. Everybody remember that? That's the new 15 days to stop the spread. Remember that from the first Trump administration? All lies, all a scam. And I think one of the issues that we're running into with the Trump administration, and I think what Trump is in tune with, is the fact that there are no consequences for his actions here. In fact, the opposite. He himself and his rich cronies are benefiting from his own actions. So what I try to do whenever I'm analyzing anybody, whenever I'm trying to analyze a situation and figure out what's going to happen, what is somebody's behavior going to be like, I try to look at what are the things that are motivating them and what are the consequences, right? What are the things that, what are the consequences of their actions here? And what we're seeing here in the case of Donald Trump is that every time he announces these trade deals or trade frameworks and says that he's come up with a trade deal, even though it's BS, the market spikes, right? You have to look at incentive structures. And so if Donald Trump realizes, you know what? It's actually better if I don't do any deals. I can't do any deals. But what I've learned is I can manipulate the media and I can manipulate the markets. And if I say that we have a trade framework, or if we have the scaffolding of a deal, a concept of a plan, and the market goes up, great. And when I want to manipulate the markets even more, all I got to do is send out a post on my Truth Social account, and I got to say, China, you've been bad. China, I'm going to punish you some more. Then the markets go down. And if you think that there aren't people who Donald Trump knows personally that are not benefiting on these market swings every single time it happens, then I don't know what to tell you. There are people getting extremely rich right now off this market when it swings in both directions. And Donald Trump knows damn well that he can manipulate these markets quite literally with a tweet. And so that that is a dangerous power for somebody like that to have. And in my opinion, the incentive structure is not for him to solve any of these issues at all. It's for him to prolong these issues and then make up these fake deals, these fake patches for these issues, which then swing the market back and forth in various ways as him and his rich cronies get richer and richer. That's the scam that we see playing out. All this while the food lines extend, while people are suffering out there, while people can't get their health care. The richest in this country right now are living it up. They are having the time of their lives under this Trump regime, and that's why they are doing everything in their power to protect him.
You guys both nailed that. So there's no data to inform the economy or anything like that because of the government shutdown, right? And so Donald Trump now gets to manipulate the markets with the swing of a tweet, with a press release that the media is just so eager to chomp at and take at face value. Oh, look, he's reached another deal. What a genius he is. And I would say in many cases, he doesn't even have to quote unquote manipulate the media there, Brett, when so many are willing participants. CNBC. I mean, they love parroting these talking points. And to your point, why, Brett and Ben? Because you can't tell me the hosts of the world that we see on CNBC, they're not the top 1% of America. They are. And so they love this. They're in on the con. They are in on the game, and they chomp at the bit to put this stuff out there and seed it to the world because it benefits them. It makes me so angry because all of this is, again, at the expense of the American people who are really struggling out there, who don't own stock, who don't want to play this market manipulation game, who just want to be able to feed their damn families. And then you have Mike Johnson up there just parroting these Trump talk. I mean, Mike Johnson's a total freaking puppet, man. He is. He's a total complete puppet up there because really what it comes down to is Donald Trump. He has all of the control there. And to see this, it's so.
And Jay, even Trump admitted that the other day. You know, there was like an interview comments from Trump the other day where he was like, yeah, Mike Johnson's my puppet. Like he'll do whatever I can. Like Mike Johnson, totally cucked Mike Johnson.
And by the way, so this is, I don't think we're going to get into the Bannon clip on this show, but like Steve Bannon over the weekend or a couple days back at this point had said something like Donald Trump is ready to run for that third term and we're going to figure out how to do it. I'm paraphrasing, but that is what he said. It was pretty blunt and direct, just like that. And so what I see Trump doing here with Mike Johnson is sort of testing the waters. Hey, how can I be de facto Speaker of the House here? Let me see how far I could push my limits here.
Like, honestly, he is though, right? He is de facto Speaker of the House, and I don't think he has to test the waters because I think this House of Representatives and I think this Vice President who we have, like if what happened in 2020, if January 6th happened today, you could be damn sure that JD Vance would not do the right thing like Mike Pence did.
Exactly.
JD Vance would come up with some smarmy excuse and be like, "Okay, liberal, so you're telling me that he can't serve a third term because okay, buddy." Like he'll come up with some of one of his smarmy responses. Mike Johnson will be like, well, you know, guys, actually, this is what the people want. And, you know, my religion tells me that, you know, they could come up with an excuse for anything and they will. I don't even think Donald Trump needs to test the waters on it. And I think Donald Trump I think he likes the chaos he causes when he speaks about, you know, all the third term stuff. But I do think that, you know, if given the opportunity, he would absolutely take it and absolutely try to do it. I mean, we're dealing with a guy who does not give a damn about the rule of law, does not give a damn about the Constitution, and a party who's inclined to protect him every step of the way.
They're not even dropping breadcrumbs. They're dropping entire loaves of bread that Trump plans on doing this. When he met with Jeffries and Schumer, for example, I mean, there was no cameras there, right? But what was the big thing? That he was handing out Trump 2028 hats in that meeting. And so we have to really be prepared here to see just how far he's going to test this thing. I don't know how we ended up here from the economy and CNBC conversation, but it is scary. It's scary, and it's upsetting to see macro of just how much power the Republican Party is willing to concede to this man.
Well, and I think as you bring up MAGA Mike Johnson, the power to tariff is the power to tax, and that resides with Article 1, which is Congress. And the fact that Congress right now under MAGA Mike Johnson has allowed Donald Trump to unilaterally engage in a trade war against the world allows Donald Trump to wake up and say, I don't like an ad that the province of Ontario is running in the United States that directly quotes from Ronald Reagan. And Trump says it's clearly AI when it's not AI. It's Ronald Reagan's speech It's a shorter version of the speech because ads can't run for 5 minutes. That would be like a show, but it's Ronald Reagan's voice. If you just get to wake up angry and say a 10% tax on the American people, which is what a tariff is, which is one of the reasons we're seeing inflation rising. And then not only do the Republicans in the House say, whoa, that's our job. We are a co-equal branch and we should do something. But they then go, actually, the foreign countries are eating it. Actually, there is no inflation. We're in a golden age. All Americans are prospering. Promises kept. And it's like, nah, you Americans are suffering right now. Right therein lies a massive, massive problem, and not constitutional crisis. We're past the crisis part. We are in the authoritarian regime, and the question is how does the opposition and resistance respond to that with moral authority, with formal authority, like we're seeing with Prop 50, and you see Democrats in Virginia now finding a potential loophole there to call a special session because the MAGA Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin forgot to adjourn a special session back in 2024. So Democrats there are trying to figure out, can we get 3 additional seats out of Virginia? You have Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries going to Illinois to figure out if there's a way to get a seat there. You have Democrats in Maryland trying to see if they can respond to what is the new ball game, which is this free-for-all caused by MAGA Republicans, which is the same way on the global side. The rules-based order that existed is gone. The rules-based constitutional system in the United States is gone because of Donald Trump. And that's a big problem for people who like structure and rules and laws and constitution and following the Constitution. All right, let's go, though, talk about Trump's trip to Asia, which is where we started. Just think about this. I want to show the contrast of Trump versus Carney. So here you have Donald Trump on this trip whining in Malaysia about the escalator not working at the United Nations and the teleprompter not working, which was caused by his own people, but he's still whining about this months later. Here, play this clip.
I won't forget that day because it was one of the first wars that I got involved in. And I love doing it. It's like, I shouldn't say it's a hobby because it's so much more serious than a hobby, but it's something that I'm good at, and it's something I love to do. The United Nations should be doing this, but they don't do it. You know, they don't do it. They turned off my teleprompter when I made a speech. I had to make a speech without a teleprompter. They're good at that. The escalator wasn't working too well. It came to a complete halt. But
still whining about the escalator and the teleprompter. Dude, just grow up and get over it and talk about real things. I mean, you had Prime Minister Carney very specifically going through the trading relationships with ASEAN, the Southern Asian countries, and what they were specifically doing and how they were focused on broadening these deals. Here was Trump lying, though, and saying that he's brought in $20 trillion. And it's like, you're not fooling anybody. I mean, all the other countries are there. They know they're not giving you that money. I understand this is for his own ego, but it's like you're speaking to the group of people who you claim gave you the money and they know they didn't give you the money. So they know all they have to do is just allow you to fake it while they are pursuing changes in the previous rules-based global world order that existed where the United States was once the leader. Here, play this clip.
critical minerals and other industries, the United States is having its golden age. Last year, we were a country that was doing very poorly under a different semi-leadership. I don't even call it a leadership. But this year, we're doing numbers that nobody ever thought it was possible for any country to do. We'll be, at the end of my first year, over $20 trillion worth of investment into the United States. There's no country anywhere that's ever done anything close to that. The United States last year.
Yeah, because it's not true. And also, he thinks that's strength where it's weakness masquerading as strength. And people see the masquerade, like they see it. Because when you trash the prior administration, you're trashing in general the continuity of American leadership, right? You don't see other foreign leaders ever going on stage. And by the way, even like where there are like coups, like even when there are dictators up there, they're not spending their time focusing on trashing prior administrations or what existed before, because the rest of the world leaders that are there are focused on what can you do now and what could happen in the future. So it's actually a very weak thing that causes a massive amount of damage at the end of the day.
I think it goes back to what I was saying before too about like these incentives that are there, and what Trump realizes is he could say this, he could lie, and he doesn't really fundamentally get much pushback other than like here at the MeidasTouch Network when he makes up these various numbers. And I think Trump operates the country very much like somebody looking for that sugar high. You know, like he's always trying to go, okay, how could I kind of manipulate the market in this moment? How could I try to get, win this sliver of the news cycle? How could I try to get this point out there without realizing that the damage that he's doing by ingesting all that sugar all the time, by pushing all that sugar at the American people, which is actually corrosive and destructive to the United States of America long term. As you said, Ben, like he has totally made the United States of America look foolish on the global stage. He has turned us into, you could see all these various countries. They now view our biggest allies in the past, now view the United States as like the single most unreliable ally. And now, in fact, you are seeing countries that would ordinarily do business with us going to this event out there, and they're looking for partnerships with Asian nations. They're looking for partnerships with nations who they would never normally have such big trade agreements with and big relationships with, because they know that they cannot trust the United States. And as an American, that's a really sad place for us to be in here, to be a country that's looked so down upon by the world. When you see Canadian leaders like Mark Carney, and when you see other leaders being like, all right, you're upset about a commercial, you're going to raise tax, this is what you're going to do. We're just going to find other friends. Okay. Like we're going to go to this other place. We don't need you guys. And so we're just going to bounce. All right. Well, good luck. We'll see you later.
That's what I talk about when he's just such a global embarrassment as president. It's the lasting impact of what this is going to do on this country as far as like, can people trust our leadership going forward? I spoke last episode about like the prestige around the office and what that used to mean. And Brett, you gave the great analogy. When you were growing up, folks were like, hey, when you grow up, you could be anything you want in this world. You work hard, you go to school, you be a good person. You one day could be president of the United States of America. I look at that and I hear that now. I'm like, that I could be that. Oh, that's a silly position. It's an unserious position. And it's frankly like, I'm upset that I even have to say that, because it is a very serious position, as we all know. But what Donald Trump has made that office into, and the entire cabinet and this entire MAGA regime has done, is irreparable harm to the status of that once, very powerful and prestigious office.
Yeah, I want to contrast Donald Trump's rantings and ravings in Malaysia and on the plane heading to Japan to Prime Minister Carney, and Brett, exactly what you said. Prime Minister Carney saying, the rules-based order that used to exist is no longer here. Sure, there will still be trading with the United States. We're their neighbor, but we can't be reliant on that. What used to be our strength, the interconnectedness, is now a weakness. So we need to look elsewhere, which is what we're doing right now. And so fundamentally, the global order is shifting. And what Trump hands on or hands off, to the future is going to be a much weaker, much more isolated, long-term proposition for what the United States once was. We'll talk about that and more. We'll take our last quick break of the show. A reminder, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you could become a paid member, that would be great. And gift paid memberships to others by clicking the join button so others can access the exclusive bonus features, the emojis, the exclusive podcast I do with Ron Filipkowski. We'll be back home stretch. Let's contrast Prime Minister Carney to Donald Trump. We'll talk about Trump talking about getting an MRI, which we knew when advanced imaging. That's what I've been calling out. I said he clearly had an MRI. We'll talk about that and more. Last quick break of the show.
I have to tell you about this game-changing product I use before a night with drinks. It's called Pre-Alcohol. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Now here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice a difference the next day. Even after a night out, I can confidently plan on having a great next day without worrying. So I first gave pre-alcohol a try when I was at a wedding over the summer. I drank it before my first cocktail, and you wouldn't believe how on top of my game I felt the very next morning. Now, fall is right around the corner, so that means it's time to raise a glass to your favorite team. Whether you're tailgating, enjoying a college game day, or watching Sunday's action on that fancy new TV, don't forget ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink. Drink a pre-alcohol before drinking and enjoy great days after celebrating all season long. Go to zbiotics.com/Meidas to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Meidas at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas at checkout for 15% off.
You know, as the holidays creep up and schedules get packed, the last thing I want to stress over is dinner. That's why I love using Home Chef. With so many options delivered right to us, I can keep meals balanced and easy without wasting time on takeout or grocery runs. I recently had some of the best meals with Home Chef. I tried the Tuscan-style shrimp penne with mushrooms and tomatoes. It tasted like something out of a restaurant but came together in my own kitchen. I've also had Ramsay's brilliant truffle scallop risotto and Laura's favorite shrimp quesadilla. Every single dish has been a hit. Home Chef makes cooking simple. Fresh food delivered, easy recipes to follow, and meals that actually taste great. And here's something you need to know. Home Chef is rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. Whatever kind of day it is, classic recipes with fresh ingredients, 30-minute meals, oven-ready trays, or even quick microwave options, Home Chef has you covered. Plus, with over 30 meal options each week and a dedicated family menu, there is truly something for everyone. And I love that it's affordable too. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 a month on groceries. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off and free shipping for your first box, plus free dessert for life. Go to homechef.com/Meidas. That's homechef.com/Meidas for 50% off your first box and free dessert for life. Homechef.com/Meidas, MEIDAS. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in the description of both the YouTube and the audio. Click the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Real quick, I saw a comment the other day was like, hey, I miss when Jordy says shout out to our sponsors. It was a real comment. And so to that commenter, one, I've read your comment, and two, I'm going to bring that back to the pod now because I didn't know you liked it. So I'll bring it back. Benji.
For the people who say we don't read the comments.
I read everything. I read everything. I don't know how good that is for my mental health, but I read everything.
Probably not great, but we see what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
Careful out there.
I want to show the contrast between Trump and Carney right now, and I cannot be more stark. I mean, you've got Donald Trump, a lifelong fraud, a bankrupter, a sexual abuser. He's a felon. And you contrast that with Prime Minister Carney, someone who led the Bank of Canada during the Great Recession, who led the Bank of England during Brexit. Somebody who's just been, one of the most brilliant economists, if not the most brilliant economist in the world, especially, right now, for sure, leading Canada very strategically and methodically. So on the one hand, you have Donald Trump talking about that he got an MRI done and his last doctor's visit on October 10th, and it was the best MRI anybody's ever had, the greatest MRI ever. It was a perfect MRI, which he says very normal, getting MRIs all the time like this. Okay, here, play this clip.
These readouts from Walter Reed mentioned advanced medical imaging. Did you get an MRI? Can you tell us what that was?
I did. I got an MRI. It was perfect. Yeah. I mean, I gave you the full results. We had an MRI, and in the machine, the whole thing.
Yeah.
and it was perfect. Yeah.
Did you say one?
You know, the machine, the whole thing, it was perfect.
The best MRI, perfect MRI, the best MRI anyone's ever seen. Incredible. Ben, we were talking about it. The crazy thing is, like, I remember your reporting very clearly from this time where you read through that ridiculous doctor's note that they had given after he did this. By the way, this follow-up appointment. And if you remember, they lied about this appointment. And they're like, oh, Donald Trump's just going to his annual checkup at Walter Reed Medical. And we're like, his annual checkup? He had an annual checkup like 3 months ago. In April. You don't have annual checkups every few months. He's probably going for a follow-up. Like, it must be a follow-up appointment for something. And then pretty quickly we were like, well, what are the things that they cannot do at the White House that they can only do in these facilities? One of the things are MRIs. And so you suggested reading through the language that they put, and they put it in kind of, different terms, that I think Donald Trump got an MRI for something, which isn't exactly a normal a thing that you just do. And I think it's interesting now, a few weeks later, he himself is confirming that he did this MRI, and just all day on the on this flight, he just kept going back to these tests for cognitive abilities, which are designed to test if you're experiencing symptoms of dementia. And he kept going back to those dementia tests over and over and over again, clearly thinking about his cognitive abilities and the exams that he had to undergo in this follow-up appointment at Walter Reed. I think it's very revealing, the fact that he's bringing this up, and the fact that that he had these checkups at the hospital.
I think it's very revealing for many reasons, but the main reason for me is he wouldn't confirm something like this and say it so specifically the way he phrased it, if not for the fact that he is likely going to be getting more of these and making more trips there. So I'm speculating there, but I think, with reasonable thoughts, you can come to that same conclusion there. And also, again, taking us back to where we just left off before we cut to commercial. I got the best MRI, the greatest. I did the greatest MRI. What are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here, folks?
And he says that he took to Brett's point, another cognitive exam. He said back in April, he took a cognitive exam at that time. Now he takes another cognitive exam. And he's apparently taking this cognitive exam all the time.
Yeah, this is not an exam. Taking these exams so often.
You don't take these exams like all. Why do you keep taking cognitive exams? Like
you wake up, you brush your teeth, shower, you take a cognitive exam, you have your breakfast. It seems to be his daily routine.
He thinks that cognitive exams also, he thinks they are IQ tests. Like, if you listen to the way he speaks about them, he thinks they are IQ. I'm serious. Listen to the way he talks, and he's like, I aced it, and it's actually, they say it's a cognitive exam, but actually it measures much more than that. An AOC wouldn't be able to pass this test. I mean, listen to what he said here. Watch this.
They have Jasmine Crockett, a low IQ person. They have AOC's low IQ. You give her an IQ test, have her pass like the exams that I decided to take when I was at Walter Reed. Those are very hard. They're really aptitude tests, I guess, in a certain way, but they're cognitive tests. Let AOC go against Trump. Let Jasmine go against Trump. I don't think Jasmine, the first couple of questions are easy. A tiger, an elephant, a giraffe, When you get up to about 5 or 6, and then when you get up to 10 and 20 and 25.
They're not hard. They're not supposed to be they're not aptitude tests. They're not IQ tests. They're not supposed to be particularly challenging. They're supposed to really measure if you have sentient life.
He thinks he's taking the SATs. Yeah. He's going out there taking the SATs. I like when he names the animals: a giraffe, a lion, an elephant.
They started easy when they make you identify that elephant, but then they throw some numbers in there and they go, "What's the
lion?" And sometimes I can't tell if the lion is actually a giraffe.
Yeah.
It's a confusing one. Is that lion truly a lion, or is it a jaguar? This gets really intense right here. Contrast that to Prime Minister Carney. Just play any one of it, Brett.
I think the first is just to get across the scale of ambition in Canada right now. We intend over the course the course of food security. We mentioned food security. Ken Seitz is your one-stop shop for food security with Nutrien globally, and that's actually not an exaggeration. It happens to be true. There you go. First boast of the evening. Secondly, I mean, it's enormous food. I'm just warming up for my American level of boasting. We are going to double our non-U.S. exports over the course of the next 10 years. We think we can do it in a much shorter period of time. That's $300 billion of additional exports. Most of that is going to come from Asia, in our view, and I'll justify that in a second. But on top of this, and I just underscore this because this is a two-way relationship, our expectation coming out of the budget is that we're laying out a path for at least $500 billion of additional investment in Canada in the next 5 years. Additional. Not total, additional. And that's U.S. So these are orders of magnitude that start to be relevant. Areas, both in terms of the two-way trade and the domestic investment, we're basically going to build out the infrastructure to help drive energy corridors, both clean and conventional, trade corridors, new port infrastructure, and others. But from LNG, where we're putting ourselves on a path to at least 50 million tons by the end of this decade, but double that by 2040, potentially more. It's easily done.
Remember when we used to have former President Barack Obama represent the country and speak like that on the world stage? Like, do you remember that? Like, I wanted to show that clip to you, and there's so many more clips of Prime Minister Carney.
Here's the problem, Ben. I have no idea his thoughts on escalators. No.
Has he taken a cognitive exam?
Has he taken in a dementia test? Does he even know what an elephant is? So, like, I just don't know. I don't know either.
Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent while in Asia saying that he's a soybean farmer. Let's play this clip.
I did mean the second term. I know they have met before. The president has also said he does want our farmers to be taken care of. You did mention that China has been boycotting American soybeans and American farmers have really suffered. Do you see a real light at the end of the tunnel there? They may allow soybeans again?
Well, Martha, in case you don't know it, I'm actually a soybean farmer, so I have felt this pain too. And there are a couple of things happening here. One, the Chinese have substantially dropped their purchases to almost zero, so they unfortunately have been using American farmers who are amongst President Trump's biggest supporters.
I'm a soybean.
He's a soybean farmer because he's a billionaire, or almost a billionaire. I'm sure he'll be a billionaire very soon under the Trump regime while Americans are suffering. And he owns thousands of acres in North Dakota that he rents out to all different types of farmers, including soybean farmers. So that's like if you rented your house out to somebody and they were an accountant. You're like, I'm an accountant also because they're doing accounting work in their house. Or like if you're the landlord of a building, I am actually a law firm and I'm an accounting firm, and I am an investment banking firm. You know, everyone that's it. You're not a.
Speaking of houses and renting out houses, let's take a look at Scott Bessent's house, which he modeled after the Barbie dream house. This is a real image that's overlaying over us right now.
Those are two different houses. That was his old house.
Oh, those are two different houses. Okay. Jesus.
The old house is the South Carolina mansion, which is based after Barbie's pink dream house Malibu mansion. The other one's his home in D.C. right now for $12.5 million. But he's a soybean farmer, just like the rest of you.
He's worth over $500 million, people. Like there's a genre in this Trump administration, I think, of like billionaires and deca millionaires, 100 millionaires trying to act like they understand the plight of working people and that they are feeling the pain. I'm feeling the pain too. You're worth over $500 million.
They just love cosplaying. I mean, look at Kristi Noem, for example. Every time she's a firefighter, she's an army person. She's a doctor. She dresses up in all these outfits, and they love to just cosplay.
No doubt. I want to show this as well, though. This is Jordy. This must be cathartic for you. Ruben Gallego, senator from Arizona, Democrat, on with Joe Kiernan. And Kiernan tries to do the Trump propaganda. Republicans just don't want to get blackmailed. That's what's going on. And then watch what Senator Gallego does here. It's brilliant. Let's play it.
Republicans are refusing to be blackmailed and held hostage into what Democrats want. Mike Johnson doesn't need to do anything.
Well, Democrats, it's what I want is 24 million Americans. I want 24 million Americans to have inflation. No. Okay, 24 million Americans want their insurance.
We're finished.
Healthy and affordable insurance.
I appreciate it.
You too. Have a good one.
Okay.
Have you back.
Let's go.
Have me back. Jordy, that was the moment you were waiting for, right? There's so many more clips there that I'll show in other videos, but it all basically went down like that with Kiernan, who's supposed to be a financial host, right? He's supposed to take a step back, be objective about the financial data. This is CNBC. It's not supposed to be Fox fake news, right? And he's out there pushing Republican talking points for Donald Trump. And finally, you have a Democratic senator say, look, we're just fighting for the healthcare of 24 million Americans.
And by the way, it's like, to me, it's like one point if you have like conservative beliefs and that informs your reporting. Okay. Like I could let that pass, but like Kiernan is just a straight up MAGA propagandist who isn't even basing anything he says on facts. He's just like following the Trump MAGA line with everything on a business network where people are supposed to be getting their business news so they could react appropriately to markets and actually be prepared for various market conditions and whatnot. I'm glad that Ruben Gallego was just like, dude, shut the hell up, man.
Jordy, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel good. Gallego obviously listens to the MeidasTouch podcast, and he's obviously a Jordy fan and knows that how frustrated I am with this damn channel. And I think we're getting some justice here that we can finally discuss CNBC without me getting made fun of. But Ben and Brett, to your points exactly, I'm so glad your eyes are now open to this. This is a MAGA light channel. Joe Kiernan is a MAGA puppet who just spews MAGA talking points because he, in my theory, I'm theorizing here, has tons of money in the market. And he loves the way that Donald Trump is taking the market and manipulating it in this. And who has the microphone over at CNBC? Joe Kiernan has the microphone over there. And I was watching the other day, because I watch all the time, angry at my TV watching this show, because it's for people, in my opinion, that are politically adjacent and like aren't super tuned in with everything that's going on, but just want updates on the market. But the channel has turned into this MAGA arm, the arm of the Trump regime that literally just spews his talking points. And it takes away legitimate information that people could be getting about the market and the economy to help inform their opinions in a better way. And so when Kiernan is up there doing that whole shtick, it's confusing Americans at large, because what he does is he puts on a Senator Ruben Gallego and gets him on there and asks about it and hopes that he stumbles and falters. And so Kiernan can then press him with the MAGA talking points to put that out there. See, look, it's the Democrats. They don't want you back in. It's all the Democrats' fault. And the biggest joke about Kiernan here too is Sorkin, who's on the network, who's actually a bit better. One of their good hosts, I have to say, when he tries to push back on Republicans and the MAGA arm that comes on, and rightfully so, he asks them like good questions. Kiernan gets so in his own feelings about it and makes Sorkin just stop talking. And then to me, that's like, okay, now you actually, I know you don't care. I know you don't care about the legitimate information out there that the American people actually want. And you just want to use your microphone and your network, Kiernan, to just spew the MAGA talking points.
We should get Sorkin on. I think that would be funny.
Yes,
and we should. But here's what I want to say though about that too. Like, I know you implied a little bit, that this, first off, I think it's hilarious that this has become an ongoing joke, or so to speak, of this podcast, is that Jordy hates John Kiernan with a fiery, burning passion, and hate watches Squawk Box every morning. I still don't know why. Jordy, it's raising your blood pressure. It's gonna, just be careful out there, okay? But like, I just want to say, this isn't just within the Trump administration, that this has been going back, because who used to be a frequent guest on none other than CNBC's Squawk Box? Larry Kudlow, who works for the Trump administration now. So this goes way back, is my point. It's not just a new creation. But I think that's one of the things that I think we have to realize, and that people, if you want to be media savvy, need to realize, is that these companies like a CNBC, they're owned by mega conglomerate corporations like Comcast, right? They're owned by the biggest corporations that have incentives to protect the wealthiest people. These aren't great people who run these corporations. And so when you see that there is a business channel that's owned by these mega conglomerates, who do you think they are going to be reporting in the best interest of? The working people who are trying to put food on the table for their family, the people who are concerned about their SNAP benefits, or are they trying to do whatever they can to elevate the bottom line of their owners who paid billions and billions and billions of dollars to keep these networks going? I mean, I think you really have to look at it like that. And then it makes all the sense as to why does CNBC have this Joe Kernan guy there? Why did they uplift a guy like Larry Kudlow? Why are they pushing all of this bullshit? Why do they buy into Trump's fake trade deals? Because they are pushing the line that is best going to help the billionaire class. That's just what's happening every single time. They make a lot more money doing that than they would helping the person who is terrified that they're not going to be able to pay for their groceries.
I think that's an important theme of this episode, and part of the mission that we have here at the MeidasTouch Network is to deconstruct and reconstruct with facts what's really going on there. And that's our mission each and every day. And it's an honor and a privilege to be able to fight by your side, shoulder to shoulder, bringing the receipts and the accurate news. I want to thank everybody for watching. A reminder, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe on audio as well. Wherever you get your audio podcasts, please make sure you subscribe there as well and leave a 5-star review. To our audio listeners, subscribe on YouTube. Become a member of our YouTube channel by clicking the join button, and you can gift as many YouTube memberships to others who may not be able to afford the membership. We're grateful for you. Thank you for everything. And we'll keep fighting and keep checking back on our YouTube channel every 90 minutes for new content as always. Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty! Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.